Okay, so here we got the old 65 Galaxy part mule. We usually try a bunch of different stuff on and see how it works out. So I put on this Weiand Street Warrior low-rise intake, and it performed pretty well, but I had a few problems with it. And the main problem being that it would keep popping the, popping off, and I'd be leaking coolant into my oil. So, and I know I put it on 3 or 4 times, so I know I did it right, and I actually have some of the more popular intake manifold installation videos. But a little bit about it, it's got a nice finish on it, pretty good. And compared to the Edelbrock over here, which looks kind of rough, it just has a much better finish on it overall. And then it has some of this casting in here, which really helps with fuel atomization. So in theory, it should be a good intake, and it comes with all the plugs and everything you need to get your car running. But one thing that I experienced first is, like I said, I'd start leaking coolant the whole time I used this intake, and I actually took it in and figured out what the deal was. I remachined it a few times, actually. You can see here I went through with a straight edge and I'd check it, and then you can see some of my machine marks. I'd plane it down flat, and then I'd check it with a caliper to make sure it was right. And it just kept warping over and over, where I'd run it for a while and put a straight edge over it, and it would be warped again after about a month. So, and that's everyday driving. But I want to call your attention to these really thin walls here. So get this setted back on our paint job. Where these bolts run through this intake, it's real thin. Now if we look at the Edelbrock down here, you can see a whole lot of material there. I haven't had any problems at all with this intake. It's working really well. The Edelbrock Performer low rise, and then I got a carb spacer, so it's about a mid-rise intake. But anyway, so I haven't had any warping problems with that, and it's always these surfaces that warp. So I'm just making this review to kind of warn other people, because it's a real fine, it looks like a really good refined casting, but it's just a little off, and I believe it's really that thinness. So after you torque it down, and what I did was a 5-step process just to get it right, and I kept going around and rechecking them after I ran the car. I would still pull it off, and after I machined this all flat at the right angles, it would get warped again. So, I'd look out for them, and it's way lighter than the Edelbrock, so I guess they were saving money on their casting, because there's a lot less material in this than the Edelbrock and the Galaxy over here. And I actually scratched this out here, but it said cast in China. So even though these say made in the USA, I'd be leery, because obviously they're cast in China, then machined in the US. And if you have a bad casting and you go to locate this part, you can even see their locator holes are off center. You go to locate this part for machining, it's not going to be right. So I mean, overall it looks better, and it's a good design. I actually made more manifold vacuum with this intake than the Edelbrock, so I believe performance wise it's better. But overall you'll start, at least in my experience, you'll start leaking coolant. And I even went back through, checked everything, remachined it, and after I popped it 3 times and put it on 3 times, then I went ahead and, like I said, machined it twice, and it still wasn't right. So one of the things I noticed was the holes. It wants to pull to one side because these geometries get off. So I went through with a mill and kind of moved those over. But anyway, I just wanted to make a note of that. It's a $130 intake manifold, and you get what you pay for, and this Edelbrock's $180, and it's totally worth it. And I usually don't use Edelbrock products, especially their carburetors, but as far as this intake goes, it's been superb. So that's just something to look out for. But anyway, there you go.